Journey to God's House, chapter 30, entitled No Sex? I'll drink to that. So Brock Talon goes on and talks about how people at Bethel would blow off steam, so to speak, because of the intense pressure of everyday Bethel life brought upon you. He says that some guys spent time in the gym lifting weights. Other guys play basketball or some other sport. But the most popular, by and large, the most popular way to blow off steam was by drinking. Drinking beer, drinking hard liquor. He says that in those days he was a Southern Comfort guy. So I tip my hat to you. That is a great drink. And if you were short on cash, you could go for Night Train, probably Coke 45 or some other cheap drink that'll get you drunk. He mentioned that he did have a friend from Puerto Rico that would go from time to time and that had connections back home who would send him Bacardi 151. Ooh-wee. That is a very stiff drink. I've drank that straight up many times myself. But he says that he was always perplexed by the fact that drinking like the way the Bethelites did, which was heavy drinking, how that was okay at Bethel. I will tell you about one experience that I had. Now remember, I've only been up there as a volunteer, I think 4 times, I believe, for 1 week stays. So about a month stays at Bethel here and there over a few years. And I did go to one Super Bowl party once, and I asked my younger brother there if I should bring anything, and he just said, just bring whatever you want. If you don't bring anything, it'd be okay. I'm sure that there's going to be enough to drink there, alcohol and non-alcoholic. So I decided to bring a 6-pack of beer. I didn't know how many people were going to be there, so I thought that would be enough with the rest of the stuff. And when I got there, there were about 7 or 8 bottles of liquor. I don't remember exactly which ones, but I was kind of surprised and thrown off that, hey, these Bethelites here are going to be drinking pretty good for the Super Bowl. But anyways, I digress. It is common for Bethelites to drink their money away. And like I mentioned, I was kind of in a party there where there was a lot of alcohol to drink. So some Bethelites did get drunk, and when they did, it was well known who it was and when it happened, and probably where it happened. But these things were overlooked as long as you did it in the privacy of your own room. Many years later, he says that he found out Brother Hangerman was himself a drunk, that he didn't make his drinking habit public. He kept the skeletons that he knew in the closet, and the Bethel powers that be just let him be a drunk, as long as others didn't find out. But the strangeness of allowing this kind of drunkenness kind of contradicted their strict rule against rated R movies. Remember, he mentioned that Disney movie they watched that many people walked out on that wasn't even rated R. Bringing girly magazines, as he says, or nudie magazines. That was a no-no. Even if you did that one time, you were out. So it was kind of weird how they would be very strict on some things that were, in honesty, not even mentioned in the Bible, and not so strict on things that were in the Bible, like drunkenness. Doesn't that say the drunkards will be thrown into the lake of fire? That sounds pretty serious to me. But then he goes on to talk about how this no pornography was introduced into Bethel because of their simple and retarded line of reasoning, I should say, because they thought that pornography would lead to masturbation. Okay, I give you that, and that's what Brock Talon goes on to say. That it does lead to that, and if you don't, well, then you're probably lying. But anyways, but then masturbation would then lead to homosexual perversion, and being gay was worse than having heterosexual fornication in the eyes of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I can honestly say that's true. It's worse for you to be gay than to commit fornication as a heterosexual. So he goes on to talk some real talk in this one. And he says that if a guy is not exposed to pornography or the naked human female body for a long enough time, then he will be in a state most of us Bethelites were in. And that is being turned on by anything that was even remotely sexual. And I can definitely see the case for that. If you're not even allowed to masturbate, well, that's not good. And you got to hold that in and not even have a release for those urges. Hell, Sports Illustrated magazines would probably get you in a hard-on for guys. But anyways, he goes on to talk about how strange it was that you couldn't even look at those things at all. You couldn't even pleasure yourself to get rid of those urges. But as long as you drank yourself happy every night and no one found out, then that was okay. Anyways, I'm sure that it's got to be extremely difficult for homosexual Jehovah's Witnesses because they can't masturbate, they can't marry, they can't enjoy the pleasures that they desire the way they were made. It didn't happen from masturbating, as the Watchtower Society will have you believe. But it's got to be tough on them. Like he mentions in the book, Brock does, that it's worse having homosexual sex than having heterosexual fornication in the eyes of Jehovah's Witnesses. So he wraps up this chapter this way. I saw young guys in their early years allowed to blow off steam by drinking themselves silly every weekend, something specifically condemned in the Bible. They did this to get relief from the intense pressure caused by day-to-day grind of the Bethel schedule. But those same guys would in turn be required to wait and pray for the occasional wet dream in order to get that relief, which was much more intense, of no sex whatsoever. So, I guess I'll drink to that. Good night, folks.